So the news we consume shapes the lens with which we see the world. It's the way in which we respond to what's going on in the world, whether it's local or global. And that has a really big impact on how we interact in the world, how we engage, and just how we think about our fellow people. My backstory, I originally grew up in Birmingham, to a really working-class family where my dad was a security guard, and every day he'd bring home a copy of the Sun newspaper and tell me and my little brother about what was going on in the world, but using that newspaper as fact, because news is fact, right? And it was only when I started doing a paper round did I start to question why the people in the bigger houses or the nicer areas, why they didn't read the Sun, why they read the Telegraph, the Guardian, the Economist, and a whole bunch of these more expensive newspapers. And so one day I took the £13 that I'd made that week from delivering over 100 newspapers, and I bought each of those papers. I sat down and I read them. And it just reminded me, or it made me aware that I and my little family or my little group of streets were in a bit of a bubble. We were seeing the world with a particular lens, but it was a very different world to the one that the people in different houses read. And that really highlighted to me the problem with echo chambers or the fact that things are sometimes black and white, even though it's the same event that happens, but the way it's portrayed is totally different. That inspired me. I found the financial markets as, for me anyway, the purest representation of that, in the sense that an event happens, some people want to buy something, some people want to sell something. It inspired me to go to university instead of going and work on a building site. I was fortunate enough to do stints at places like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Bain & Company, as I said, which was a totally different paradigm to the one that I had grown up with. At the same time, I was so passionate about this idea of perspectives, and that an event happens, but there are two different sides. So I set up a little side hustle called the Market Mogul, where we cover different perspectives on what's going on in the world. So if The Economist publishes a piece, what's the opposing view, and stuff like that. It manifested into something pretty big. We had over 3,000 contributors all over the world, and were one of the most successful crowdfunding campaigns at the time for a media company. But then Brexit happened, and it really highlighted to me some of the issues that I had seen growing up still weren't fixed. We did an analysis of the newspapers you read and, whoops, it's going very fast, the newspapers you read and how you voted. And we realized there was a very strong correlation. It's also becoming a lot harder for consumers to get access to high-quality news. Paywalls are a necessary thing, and newspapers need to make money. But as an end consumer, it's expensive. It's taxing to decide which one you go for and which one you get if you want to pay for news. And that's where we thought about, how do we fix some of this? And that's where Mogul News comes in, where our simple premise is one of giving you the best journalism from the world's leading publishers in one place, working with publishers to help support their quality journalism whilst enabling them to access and start to understand and get the awareness of some of the most brilliant publishers that are out there, ranging from The Economist to the FT and many others in between. And we give all of that to you starting from $6.99 a month, so at a price point that is affordable. But the most important part of this is this idea of perspectives. We know media leans sometimes towards the left and sometimes towards the right based on the publisher. We just actively encourage at Mogul News for you to look left, look right, then decide, and really consider a broad range of perspectives. We also really care. As part of our ethos is this idea of making it more accessible. For anyone who buys an annual subscription to Mogul News, we'll gift one to someone in a low socioeconomic background who wants to consume high-quality content but can't afford it, just like me. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to create something new from a reader's perspective, as opposed to working within the industry to support the consumer and give them a brilliant experience, to support publishers and enable their content to be read by more millennials, and finally, to support journalism. As we continue to evolve and grow, our model for original content centers around listening to journalists, listening to their problems, whether it's gender pay gap, glass ceilings, and just create a really constructive environment using tech as an enabler. Because we truly believe you can't change the world if you don't understand it. And at Mogul News, we're here to inspire the next generation of change makers. Some call them millennials, some call them something else. And we really just want to give users a firm grounding of what's going on in the world. Thank you.